Hello there, everybody. How's it going? Boy, don't you like that bass? Boom, dum, dum. Well, that was the opening to How Long by Ace. So, yeah, pretty good stuff, man. So, how y'all doing? Good to see you. It's Monday, and looks like we're all still hanging in here. And, the world hasn't completely gone bat crap crazy, although I think we crossed the threshold. And so I just want to speak favor. Love is the answer. Be of service to others, and just speak full restoration. Um, so that's my solution. And I really like that song. Ace, I was back in the day, the 70s. Who would have thought? Hey, Big Al, how you doing? Day off. Well, brother, I'm glad you're in here. Hey, Nina and Susie Q, Bonnie and Charlene. Hey, Deborah Truax, how you doing, dear? Janie, good to see you. Hello, Robert V. Good to see you, my friend. And David Barry, much love to you. Lost in Space. Hello, David Castle. Nina the Mystic, how are you doing? Peter, good to see you. And Grandpa Brian. Hey, beautiful Kaz Hawk, how you doing? Every time I hear music, I think about Kaz. Hey, Lucky Stone, thank you for tuning in. So good to see you. And Jeffrey Wallace, Darth, good to see you. And Ron, who's else all out there? Man, full house. Yeah, I don't know how your strong end of the week went. I don't call it the weekend. I guess technically, if your day starts on Sunday, then I don't know. I think it's all relative, isn't it? Hey, Dana, good to see you, hon. Good to see you. Crystal, hello. AK Morningstar, peace. Jansna, good to see you. Isby, hello. And Brian, there's so many other people filing in here. But I'll tell you what, man, the fear is everywhere. Man, just crazy. It's off the chart. So you can see I am wearing my Antakarana. And let me tell you something. When you combine them with Marsha's rods, wow, 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 wow. Yeah. It's off the it starts lighting up. NASA starts going, what's going on? Says hello. So anyway, lots of strangeness going on. Loretta, good to see you. And boots on the ground. Jargo, good to see you, my friend. Bonnie. Delta Hook, good to see you. Chris Garcia, hello, my friend. Joe Sapien and Jay. How you doing, Jay? What's up? Everyone's masked up. Yeah, yeah. Gilbert, good to see you. And Jody. Tomorrow, Trina and I will be on our show, A Second Look. Got a lot to talk about. Boy, the intensity of the negativity is just it's palatable, it's tangible. You understand? Yeah, y'all do. We're going to talk about that. And then Wednesday, I got Jennifer Roberts coming on, and I think Amber as well. And I believe Nina is joining us as well. We're going to talk about the divine feminine. There are women who are in power. There are. I mean, the Speaker of the House is a female, and there are governors around in the United States, and there are prime ministers and etc. The question I guess we're going to focus in on that one is, where's the divine feminine there? I'm missing it. I'm going to be candid with you. When you think about Miss Pelosi and others, I just ain't getting the vibe of, love me do. I'm just not hearing it. I'm just not feeling the love these days. And I think that can be true about so much, just not feeling the love. But speaking of love, so Joyous 111 in 2021. So make the most of it. That's what I always say. And as you can see in the blue screen, they're watching. That's, there was a movie out, I think, called Solomon. No. What was that movie? I'll think of it here a second. The talking gorilla. Anyway, they went back to Africa and found the lost mines of Solomon. And on the writing was the all-seeing eye, which says, we're always watching. Our stories of, we're going to get into some of that today, of the watchers. Mankind believes in duality. So he's invented angels, he's invented demons. And, you know, mankind really doesn't know about the afterlife, but we have a great imagination. The problem is with our imagination is that there are those who know the mysteries. And, you know, I kind of look at it like this. We kind of walked in on this. I mean, we talk about how enlightened we are, and now they even have taken the term that we used to use. You know, they always rile against New Age, right? You New Agers. Well, it's better than the old damn age because that sucks. But yet they steal from us because they're still asleep. Now everybody is woke, not awoke, but woke. And there is a difference between being awoke and woke. You see, you can actually be woke and still be sleeping. You can actually be sleepwalking. That's what they call that phenomenon. Those people are woke. They look wide awake, but they're sound asleep. And that's exactly what we're facing today. The CIA, of all things, is changing its logo and their mission statement. If you look at the new logo of the CIA, you gotta go, what the freak's going on here? I mean, they're using New Age terminology all through their mission statement. The CIA, we are quote unquote woke, not awake, woke. But it gives the impression that, wow, everybody is awake. No, they're even more asleep than they ever have been. And if you look at what's happening today, I mean, where's the love? Where's the forgiveness? Did I miss something? Are there what different type of human beings here that, you know, one human being has the right to point a finger at the other and say, well, let me tell you about your faults. Well, let me tell you about your faults. And in the end, if we don't find reconciliation, forgiveness, then all we're going to find is hate and death. So I want to get into something to counter. Well, it's not going to counter. I don't know. I guess you're just really going to have to look at it. The theme, by the way, from this week's Steiger perspective is that 2021 is 1984. We're here. We think we've gone into the future. We haven't. Now, what is going on here? Save files. Well, we may. Let's see what we got here. Well, he says, let's see. It's not letting me share the screen. So what I will do, we never surrender. We never give up. All right. So where is my... I've seen this before. Let's see if we can get that. There we go. How about that? Patience has its virtue. So I did a last year I did a whole thing, actually maybe it's been about a year and a half ago, on this country, what this country is actually founded on. Many people are under the illusion that this country was founded as a democracy. It was not. Many people do not understand what the people were back in the 18th century. Many people don't understand that they got the and I had this perception that we were a Christian nation. Anything but. But anyway, so I come in and I wanted to point out something here, and I'm going to do this really quick because I got something else I want to show. If love is the answer, then why all the hate? It's one thing I will say about this group. It does a lot to protect that. There have been a lot of haters that try to have come in here. You know, they sneak in and they try to divide and what have you. But I'll say one thing for this group. They are tenacious. We got a good vibe going. So from 1984, George Orwell, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. And as I have now trademarked the name, the term that ignorance is a self-inflicted disease easily cured by knowledge. None of the religions, none of the politicians, none of, the ones that are in power, they don't want the masses to become awake. How's that? We're seeing it now. This is the day. This is the hour. The day of censorship. The ogoliths are here. The future is here. And I got to tell you what, I don't like it. So on January 6, 2001, an innocent human being was sacrificed in the Capitol Rotunda within the outer sanctum. This was no accident. This was more than just a murder. Intelligence is defined that we think we have intelligence, not because you think you know everything without questioning, but rather because you question everything you think you know. That's how consciousness works. None of us are a complete consciousness other than that which we have created within ourselves, and we seek constantly to add to our essence. Again, from George Orwell, power is not a means, it is an end. We can now say honestly, and I don't even think Orwell saw this coming, but we are now, this is it. Big Brother is watching us. We're all slaves. We're all, if we got what was rightfully ours, what these ogoliths have done in selling us, trying to sell our essence. You see, the great marketing ploy is that if I can become predictive enough, then the marketer will know exactly what to feed me. And that's what's happened. You can go back and get into this, but you really need to understand, again, many of you know this, what the Capitol was initially envisioned as. Thomas Jefferson, and George Washington, along with a number of the signers on the Constitution, and viewed our capital to be basically a temple to the gods. Jefferson, along with Franklin and many others, were of what they call the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was a society. Maybe they never hid what they believed in. They didn't necessarily believe in the Hebrew Jewish God. Quite the opposite. Their beliefs of the gods go back to the days when the gods lived among us, and they did. I don't believe that those were fantasy stories of Olympus. I don't think so. I think that there was a time that they did live among us. I contend they may have come back. So this is the whole story, that you can understand what the capital of the United States was about. It was designed as a temple using Greek, Romo-Greek architecture, theme, design, function, and purpose. This is the interesting thing. You can actually read this yourself. This is Robert Wood's book, 1753. He writes in the ruins of Parama, when they began to look at ancient capitals, knowledge, wisdom, that's what enlightenment is all about, right? So this is actually written. The print was that Wood's conception of the temple of the sun, this was our capital, which is also the temple of Bel, or the temple of Baal, the god of the sky and the sun, the Father in the divine trinity of the Son, S-U-N, God, the Larvable with crown of sun, was the messenger of the sun. Now, isn't it odd that we have mRNA, which is the big controversy? That's a messenger. The messenger of the sun. Are you seeing something here? S-U-N. The Agribola was the moon. Thus, the Capitol building was conceived. It was conceived as a temple, still is. It was called initially the Temple of Justice and Faith. Now, this has deep meaning because I think it's interesting. Stars brought up the second season of The American Gods. I think there's a lot to play in this. These were the designs. You can check them out for yourself. This is what they are today. You can see exactly how the structure is set up as a temple. This is where the gods reside. This is where man communes with the gods. The members of the chambers, that's highly significant. We're talking a different hierarchy here than what the common man thinks out on the street. And if you look at the way that the Capitol was built, this is I think this goes back to the 1780s, I think. This is the Washington. You can actually see that it's built on this most interesting line. And you can actually see it's the highest portion of that whole area. How many of you remember the sign that was given with the Washington Monument? Do y'all remember the signs? Does anyone remember? Do you remember what happened to the Washington Monument? Do you remember what happened in the whole Del Mar Peninsula there? Do you remember what happened up on Wall Street? Remember the 2 earthquakes? Weird stuff is happening, folks. I thought this was really interesting for those of you, because this is all relevant, folks. Because you see, if this was the intent of the architects, the builders, this is what went into the buildings, regardless of what the buildings ended up. And they still ended up as temples. This was conceived as, I think this was initially the Lincoln Memorial. We elevate our leaders to gods. Another concept you can see, and this is what it ended up. It's a temple. People don't realize that when they're walking up these steps and they walk into the rotunda, the outer chamber is where you see the columns and the Parthenon, and then as you're on the outside, you can see the it is adorned as a temple. And then you move into the inner sanctum. Now, this is what was the problem last week. It may be the people's building, but the people have not been initiated, and therefore they're not allowed into the inner chambers. And this is what we have today. This is the temple of the gods. It's adorned, and we'll get in. I won't get in deep, but I have to explain all that. But when you look at this, and you can see it's not what we were taught. The temple, the capital was dedicated to the sun god, Baal. No Jesus, no Yahweh. It was Baal. When this exhibit went around, it went to the three pillars: London, Washington, D.C., and the Vatican. It was significant. They invoked Baal. And I know this sounds strange, folks, but I'm not making this stuff up. It happened. As it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. And when you begin to realize sacrifices were made to these gods, many believe that 9/11 was nothing more than a sacrifice. America was created to be the seat of power for the gods of war. We are not a peaceful nation. America, in its time of its existence, has been a constant nation at war. Our people have really never known any time that this nation was not either in a war directly or, how should we say, back channeling, feeding a war. As I explained to you before, you see the fasces on both sides. This is a temple. You don't violate sacred ground. And unfortunately for those people, they didn't stop and think. They were not the brightest bunch. Because if you understand how things are laid out, how power grids are put together, how structures that are not seen on the ground but can only be seen from above. No human makes a building primarily for the fact of, particularly monuments, to be seen just from the ground. You want to be seen from above. And if you look at this, it gets very strange because it's all there. Here's Washington as Zeus. The obelisk. And here's the interesting thing. We knew that the gods had returned when the obelisk was cracked. That's what I was referring to just a little bit ago. When that earthquake hit in that Virginia region, it was so powerful, it cracked the Washington Monument. The one in New York City went from the church all the way down Broad, all the way directly to Wall Street. I walked it, saw it for myself. Now, if you look at the Supreme Court is, if you could say that there was a pentacle, the lowest is the White House. The next in the seniority and hierarchy is what we call the Congress, the Capitol. And then at the top of the hierarchy is what we call where the gods resides, This is where we have the Supreme Court. And if you look at this, this is built in the Greek temple structure. It's designed as a temple. The U.S. Supreme Court building is a replica of a pagan temples. Although built long after the framing years, the architects were keenly aware of the strong classical foundations of the American Enlightenment and the U.S. Constitution. Comparing it with the architectural orders of the buildings such as the Parthenon leaves no question as to its inspirational source. The representations of diverse legal and intellectual currents presented in the Capitol are also seen in and on the Supreme Court building. Several friezes inside and out portray an array of lawmakers and lawgivers from history, Eastern and Western, that contribute to the evolution and formation of Western secular law. Over the eastern entrance is the frieze sculptured by Herman McNeil, which depicts three of the world's greatest lawgivers, Solomon, Moses, and Confucius. In the courtroom, on the south wall, is a frieze of the 18 famous lawgivers sculpted by Adolf Weinman. On the left of the center, representing lawgivers before the current era, are Menes, Hammurabi, Moses, Solomon, Lycurgus, Solon, Draco, Confucius, and Augustus. On the right, representing the current era, are Justine, Mohammed, Charlemagne, King John, St. Louis, Hugo Gratis, William Blackstone, John Marshall, and Napoleon. And there we go. These are the gods. That's what they call them too, the guardians. These are temples. And when you violate the rules of the temple as a mortal, you're going to pay the price. Here is George Washington as God, well depicted as Zeus. Mars, the god of war. Here again are the founders giving us, the mortals, the words. So when you have the entrances of the U.S. Capitol building with the pagan god Mars, what's going on here? The whole story behind this one. This is the area that as I understand, where the woman was slain. But you have to understand, Ceres is what America worships. Did you know we actually have a divine goddess? Yeah. Ceres, right here. They don't teach this in school. States worship her. This is the state of Missouri. Check it out for yourself. This is Zeus. You see, these are not just, fancy buildings with nice facades. No. It doesn't work that way. The ignorant see it as that. But when you begin to walk around, and I spent a lot of time in DC and in New York City, you begin to see this symbology everywhere. Heavy magic in primarily DC, but I got to tell you, you get down in the financial district of New York City back in the day, it's still there. Heavy symbology of the gods. They're everywhere. Many believe that Washington was Zeus incarnated in the flesh. That's why he couldn't be defeated. And this is in the Capitol. Here is Washington as Zeus. This is all significant. This adorns the Senate chambers. Who is she? Why is she riding? Look at her chariot. Oh, folks, I mean, It's everywhere, but no one never sees it, ever. Notice the snake over on the right, the serpent. Notice the eagle over on the left. The eagle represents Zeus, the serpent, Lucifer. Always there in front of us. All of this is at the Capitol. Notice the goddess of liberty. Notice her shield, her sword. Notice that she's flying. Notice what is to her right. It's so heavy that and Mars is everywhere within the Capitol. These again, this is the outer sanctum. This is the temple of the gods of war. Human blood was shed within the sanctum. This was a sacrifice upon an altar. And anytime you get human blood involved, it's not good. As I said, the U.S. has always been in a state of war, not in a state of peace. The gods were witness to this sacrificial offering, and it was duly noted by all. So I'm going to go pretty quickly through here. I mean, this is Romulus. This is in our capital. So we have representation of not only the era when the gods walked among us, which we call the golden era of Olympus, we also have the Roman representation. This gets into the whole way that the temple is set up. And of course, we have today give me 1 second. There we go. I'm back. So there is something going on. I got to tell you, the level of hatred that I'm seeing now. You know, I remember the Vietnam War. I remember, you know, the riots in Chicago in 68. And then in 72, the turmoil that we had in Vietnam, the Nixon taking us off the gold standard. It sucked back in the 70s. Just got to tell you, it sucked. But it was also a time, though, where civility still existed. Our leaders realized that we couldn't fight each other forever. I wish we had that same mentality. And at some point, I am truly believing that the sanity will come back and realizing not all of us live in glass houses. But there's something else here, because this is devoid of any compassion, any empathy. Let me show you something else. As he says, well, I have to do it that way. Okay. So, here we go. All right. So this is from George Orwell's 1984. We're going to go through this, not all of it today, because I have something else I want to bring into this, because something else, like I said, is going on. So as we get into at the beginning of the story, if many of you know about Winston Smith, that's how the story begins to open. And Winston lives in what we live in today. There's no freedom left. Censorship is everywhere. And everywhere you're being watched. Everywhere. If you have a car that has been built since 2010, Your car watches you, reports back on you. Your cell phone, unless you turn them off, and even then they're still on, tracks you. Your internet tracks you. Everything we do, everything you use with a bank card, debit card, credit card, goes into, believe it or not, it's right outside Little Rock, Arkansas. And it's one of the largest data repositories where all of this data is dumping in by the millisecond. I'm there, you're there, and it's truly the beast. That's the only thing I can call it. It's underground in enormous caverns and everything. It has another, probably multiple nodes at this point. I do know of the node in Luxembourg. I know of that node. That's the only one I know of for sure, but I'm sure that there are others everywhere. So we live in Winston's world. I want to bring in something else in here because this is, like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. So they're watching, but here's one of the quotes I thought: only the thought police mattered. This is what we have today. We have the thought police. And when you see what is taking place, you see, with this type of tyranny, you're automatically guilty. That's the difference in how we live in a republic where you're presumed innocent until proven guilty. What we live in today is, because the way that the information is controlled and who is out there, and the thought police are Google, Facebook, Twitter. These are the thought police. And in their tyrannical realm is that everyone is guilty. There is no recourse for objections. There's no recourse to find out who your accusers are. There's no recourse in determining what information was brought about. And there's no recourse to even decipher if it's truthful or not. The truth doesn't matter. Because you see, the truth is, how shall we say, only relevant to the one who's making the decision. And that sucks. I mean, that really sucks. But this is what we have. And so the ministry of truth is what we now have. Big tech has now taken on, and these are the gods. These are powerful gods now. They have actually come in, and when Zuckerberg, and I can think of all the ones that initially started in the early days, they didn't realize what they were doing. I don't think they have in the afterlife coming. I wouldn't want to be a part of it. But what they never understood was that they were building a tulpa. They were building a host for these gods to take over, and they're here. I don't know what they got in store for us, but I don't think it's good. Because look at what's happening here. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. And in the day in the internet, ignorance is the thing that's most heralded. Because human beings, as creatures left on their own, they'll eventually kill themselves. We've done it in the past. We're going to do it again. We fight wars for what reason? For mere ideologies? never realizing that we are merely the puppets. And as we're going to get in, because the whole story of Winston is that we begin to understand and see that we're here. So, but that's for the future. Get out of here, please. There we go. All right. So, as he gets it back over here, gets weird, doesn't it? I mean, it really is. It's strange. When you add into all this, is this any surprise? You see, we think that just what we see on television is all the reality that there's is. That's why we have television. Television brings us into a different reality, imagine if there was no television. Wonder where we would be as a species. No internet, no computers. I think we would probably be a lot more gentler. I think we'd probably be a lot more advanced. Don't know. Just thinking quickly. And when you put all this together, I mean, here I wear, an emblem here. This is powerful. When I first put this thing on, it took a little while to get adjusted to it. I know, you see, this is where my faith is at. I've studied enough, I've experimented enough, just enough to know that, hey, there's some legitimacy to it. And then you start to go deeper, and then the symbology is everywhere. Lynn and I used to spend time together in Washington. We were part of a group, and we would rent the Segways. And I don't know that there is one. I didn't know, Darth. Anyway, and you could, back then it was pretty fun. I mean, you could go all over DC. I mean, we rent them for 6 hours. And what we did is that we just took this independent tour of our own, going to all these different monuments, these memorials inside the Capitol. There was a time I was a registered lobbyist, and actually got to go underneath the tunnels, and the way that the Congress and senators move, where they never have to see the upside of the people that they're representing. You don't want to get that constituents. But the symbology is everywhere. And if you're an intuitive empath, hello, Amber, you feel this energy. It's tangible. Yeah. I just, see, I'm just reading some of the comments. Y'all know. Yep. There we go. So what's going on? I mean, seriously, what's going on? It's more than what meets the eye here. There's some serious stuff going on. I mean, in the spirit realm, I got to tell you, we truly did move into a new age, because I see in so many times and I to say God, I think that's wrong. The energy, the presence of change, that change can be represented in the form of chaos, where confusion is rampant and the truth is elusive. We don't know what the truth is anymore. I mean, you can have a camera right on an event, and you'll have other people that will say, nope, that was staged. The people that were being, filmed at the time will say, no, it was real. Nope, that was staged. You don't know what's real anymore. And, once the boomers start checking out in large numbers, we'll be the last. We'll be the last to ever know a time when there wasn't a mobile phone. There was never a computer. There wasn't the internet. There wasn't a lot. There wasn't, many people look back, we were in the Stone Age, but actually we weren't, you know. But once we're gone, that memory will eventually erode from whatever they're doing right now. And they're doing something. There's too many coincidences coming together. And that's why, we study, the past, these stories of these gods, goddesses. When we get together and probably get into the discussion tomorrow, you can see that there has been a deliberate effort, and I would say that this effort has been focused extremely without prejudice, they would say, within the last 2,000 years. Whatever moved in here, and that there's many who say that something took place 6,000-7,000 years ago, because we would be shocked to realize how old our genus is. And two, we probably couldn't handle it to realize how not that far very recent, things have been manipulated. And today you can see it. What's going on in the chat room? Daniel, yeah, it's really difficult. I meditate on that a lot. I question myself a lot on this. And that's one of the things they say, that, you're still sane because you're questioning yourself. You're going, okay, now wait a minute. I mean, I've seen my life. I've gone to where I was this, hippie, was really introduced to multicultural ideas, dogmas, philosophies, beliefs, religions, and then somehow fell into this. How to say, it was a cult. Christianity is a cult, no different than any other cult, and jacked with me, man. I'm just telling you, it jacked with me for 5 decades. And now I know why it jacked with me. I guess you can say, hallelujah, I saw the light, but do you think that eventually we will have to get off computers altogether? I think, yeah, I really do. I don't know if we're going to be able to, but I do. Sarah Orton, you're such a sweetheart. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, in my world, it's always, I'm always got I'm either whistling or singing a song. But anyway, getting back to where we are at. See, I think that we have witnessed the transformation of Homo sapiens sapiens to where now we are Homo, and what is the term I heard? Homo technocratus. We have now integrated to the machine, and the machine is now integrated into us. I mean, they got studies, mental health studies, that say that children, particularly born at the turn of the new millennia, their brains are wired differently than ours, than boomers, for instance. Yeah. It's interesting. Sitting here going, Freedom says computers are more addictive than heroin and cigarettes. Yeah, absolutely it is. Pamela Jean, Homo aware. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. The genus of Homo is changing. In fact, I think that there are those in the anthropology field that will now tell you, I think that we may be 2 genuses already past sapiens sapiens. I don't know. Carol, you know, that's really interesting. So with the Human Genome Project that was completed in 2006, the discovery that came forth, and isn't it interesting? We cracked the human genome at almost the exact time we turned on the first quantum computer from D-Wave. And as Gordy said, who was the founding CEO, said, when they first flipped the switch, his exact words was, it was like kneeling before an alien god. So then we cracked the human genome. What did the human genome tell us about us? Well, there are no true human beings here. They may have been here, but they aren't here now. We don't know how long ago it was when the last true human being died. But what we are today, we are not human beings in the true sense of the word. We're hybrids. And that's a known fact. Human beings today are hybrids. It's in our DNA, mitochondrial DNA. It's very evident that we have been manipulated with our species. We are truly a mutt. Heinz 57. We're not a pure breed. There are no pure humans anymore. You had a whole fascist regime that thought that they could actually reverse the genetic damage to us because we're damaged genetically. We're a flawed species. Where do you think all these freaking diseases come from? These things that are only done into the gene. We're a flawed species. Many say that if nature abhors a mistake, then nature's about to do a job on us because we are a mistake. I'm speaking genetically. Don't take me like I'm just simply speaking genetically. We are a mistake. And now that we're now getting into genetic therapies, there'll never be what is considered to be the sapien sapient. That's about to change. Once that starts going worldwide, we're an altered species. See, and you say that there's not something of a higher intelligence behind this? How is that? Are you saying that this is man's genus? Not genus, Genus, but Geninus. So is this the epitome of man's intelligence? What we see taking place here? Is the absence of the gods been so long that man has become so arrogant within himself that he doesn't realize when the gods have returned? Does man not understand where he stands in history itself? I don't know. Deborah, that's an interesting point. Yeah. What other mistake did nature ever make? I don't know, Rex. I guess you could see. I don't know, because man is the one who's setting the ground rules. I mean, we say mistake, but we're making a mistake by saying it was a mistake because we were mistaken to begin with. Yeah, sure. You follow that one, right? That's a good question, though. I mean, it's interesting. If Mother Nature didn't make us, then I feel Lost in Space says I feel like we're fleas on her back, and Mother Nature doesn't like what we are doing. You know, I watched Ron Truth sent me this video, and I watched it. Aluna. It's about the native tribesmen down in the Amazon. I think this case they were in Colombia. And a couple of years ago, they sent out the warning. And they are connected directly to Earth, the mother. They call her the divine goddess, mother. She is the living planet. And I watched it, and you go out there, go on YouTube, check it out, Aluna, Aluna. And by the time you watch that documentary, we're in deep shit. I don't think there's no turning back. They sent this warning out, I think about a decade ago, connecting all the black lines that have been broken, and they began to, on their part, reestablish the gold thread. And when you begin to look how what they know, and our scientists just today are beginning to grasp these new concepts, they said that Earth is suffering. They said that she is very sick, and that they warned us that when Earth goes within herself, cataclysm is what is brought forth. And it is said that the Earth has gone within herself. That's my interpretation of what I've seen this. And it's quite fascinating. When you look at the rivers, the tributaries that go into the oceans, you see the blood veins, you see where the heart is, you can see how Earth actually is like a heart, how it pumps, the tides move in, the tides move out, everything. The ocean is tied to the mountain is tied into the tributaries of the rain. It's all connected. It goes forward, it goes backwards. And man has now stopped that process. So, uh, Janie, what is that one? What was that, honey? Yeah, the Amazon Prime, the superhuman. It's there. You can do it in there. Check it out, though. Carol says, I can't believe that. Wayne, you know, watch what they have to say. They talked with PhDs. They talked to astrophysicists. And the astrophysicist said, I don't know how they know this. He said, we didn't discover this until very recently. They knew stuff that was up in the heavens, in the cosmos. They understood it perfectly, how it worked. It was quite interesting. But they sent out the warning. They sent out the warning and said that, well, I think we passed that time. And I look at what's happening today, you know, mankind is, you know, we're such idiots. I mean, I sit here and I look at the spiritual aspect of life in with the material and the physical, and I mean, it is. I tell you, my inner self just looks at this and laughs. I mean, that's the only thing you can do. It's beyond crazy. And I don't know. Well, interesting you say that, Deborah. You know, when you wrote that about the sidewalks and the streets and everything else, Joni Mitchell, you know, on her album Free Man in Paris, you know, put up a parking lot, you know, Cat Stevens, you know, his songs from back in the 70s. We knew it back then. I don't know what happened. Greed, I guess. You know, everybody wants to make a buck. I don't know. You know, I still say we can go to a place where, you know, you don't work, you enjoy. You develop a craft. You develop the ability to master, not pay taxes, not have to get up at the crack of dawn. That's nuts. If your natural body rhythm is to be up at midnight, you should be able to do that, pursue that. If it is to getting up at the crack of dawn, then do that. But we don't do that. We're all lost. We can't figure out, well, what do you do for a living? Isn't that a hell of a statement? What do you do for a living? I live. I breathe. What do you mean, what do I do for a living? Well, what do you do for work? Why would I want to work? Now you're getting it like now. Oh, I see. So the real thing is that when you were born, you truly had the old proverbial, oh man. I wrote in a meditating session, I came out and I said, are sapiens capable of achieving racial harmony? And I think the answer is no. And I'll tell you why. I think it's about the basic instinct to survive. It's that whole thing about the flesh. You know, everyone's lovey-dovey until the food runs out, and then 3 days later, you know, you're on the menu. Your friend is looking at you as like a, you know, the next meal. All right, folks, I do love y'all. Y'all are just great people. Thank you. You know, I wish I could say what's going on to the next move. I don't know. But I do know this. We'll get together as long as we can, have fun and learn and just love, show the world an example. Love is the answer. And we're going to get that. Susie Q, what does that mean? Well, I hope no one is judging anybody. You know, we got to stop that nonsense. None of us have gotten, you know, a straight A report card, you know, 5 gold stars. Boy, that I see, that just triggered a serious, intense deja vu. I was back there. I was back in my first grade class, folks, right in Santa Clara, right in the, and when I said that, because I got 5 gold stars more than once, but I remember the first time that happened. All the rest of the kids didn't like it, but that was intense. I mean, I was right back there. Anyway, all right, folks, I'll see y'all tomorrow with Miss Trina, and we'll have more in-depth discussions. All right, be good, folks. Remember to laugh, smile, dance, and if, you know, they try to take, you know, anything else away, don't let them take what's in here away. Never let the song in your heart go quiet. That's what I say. All right, folks, much peace to you.